So water, I suppose the way I think of it is that water sits at the heart of how we live with the climate change we can't stop, in the way that energy sits at the heart of how we try to slow down climate change. So these are two massive sectors where huge transition is required. And what's happening in the energy transition is quite exciting. What's happening on water is just far too slow. Tiny amounts of money are being invested at the moment compared to the need. The need in low-income countries, it requires investment in hundreds of billions per annum. So it's trillions that are needed in the water space in order to transition to a situation where there is much greater resilience to climate change and indeed to other major changes going on in the world, such as rapid urbanization. And yet, I said energy is going well. One of the indicators of that is that 45% of the investment in energy in low-income countries is coming from the private sector. The figure for water is 9%. The private sector is basically not engaging in water investments in low-income countries. And I believe that the private sector is going to be absolutely key as to whether the world can deal with this issue. Private sector can move fast, much faster than governments, and particularly multilateral agreements. It can move at scale. It has the skills. It's often where even if it's a public sector run, they will have a supply chain that obviously runs into the private sector. I also think for the private sector, this is a matter of survival. Most private sector organizations have both supply chains and also customer bases that are in parts of the world that are going to be hugely affected by the water crisis. So what do we need to do to unblock the barriers to investment in the water sector? How do we do this? So let's look at who uses water. Water, actually, freshwater supplies around the world, generally speaking, around about 70% of them are used by agriculture, and often very inefficiently. And the rest is basically roughly 50-50 between individuals using it, we all use water in our homes, and industry. And water is not valued. It's usually free. And it's overused, partly because of that. So we need to completely rethink the business model that sits around water. It does need an income stream. It needs an income stream to maintain water facilities over a very long period of time. Investments in water, if they do occur, are usually made with, decades of returns anticipated. Not big returns, but long-term returns. So you've got to maintain those facilities. And of course, we need an income stream to attract investment in the first place. This sector also needs good regulation, a strong government role, and this needs to occur wherever the water is. So we're often talking about strengthening government systems at a sub-national level. It needs to be in the water basin, where the water is used by different people, and their use of the water needs to be well regulated. And of course, there needs to be great transparency, and citizens need to know, what water supplies should be in place, and are they in place. Money needs to play different roles. As I said earlier, we need far more investment in water, trillions, and that money is mostly sitting in the private sector, in sovereign wealth funds, in pension funds, in wherever in the world. So we do need to create the conditions for investment, for-profit investment in the water sector. But this is unlikely to happen in the parts of the world that I'm focused on, the ones, as I said, who did the least to cause climate change, but are feeling the impact the greatest, without some leveraging of this, some public role, de-risking, use of aid flows, redirecting government subsidies. Something needs to be done to create the conditions, because at the moment the investments are not taking place. And also, and these are the smaller sums of money, but probably the most important and sometimes the most difficult to secure. We need grant making from public sector, from philanthropy, to fund the design, especially the financial design. So we develop that better water business model that attracts investment and provides reliable services, affordable services to everybody, including the very poorest. So what are we doing about this? As WaterAid, we're doubling down on this crucial issue. We've prioritized in our latest strategy, proof of concept in some of the poorest countries in the world, integrating this issue into both the climate and the health sectors, and doubling down on trying to get much more investment in the sector, not for WaterAid, but in the sector.